I believe we read 39. This is Narada making his entrance into Dwarka, and he's making some words of propitiation to Krishna. Of course, the scene is there's a whole assembly. It's not just Krishna and Narada. They're in the assembly hall in Dwarka, and Krishna is seated there, and Narada is coming to see Krishna. Immediately, respecting the renounced position of Narada, Krishna rises, receives him properly, etc., etc. And now Narada's speaking, offering his praise to Krishna. And then he is coming with a message. He's already met one messenger from kings. Now it's a messenger from Yudhisthira. O Supreme Truth, playing the part of a human being, I shall tell you what your devotee Yudhisthira Maharaj, the son of your father's sister, intends to do. As soon as Narada came, Krishna's question is, how are the Pandavas? As if he didn't know. I mean, he knew. And the explanation is Krishna was eager to kill Jarasandha, and the killing of Jarasandha was necessary in part for the Rajasuya Yagya, and he knew that Yudhisthira wanted to perform the Rajasuya Yagya. So he asked, how are the Pandavas? Now here's the message from Yudhisthira. Desiring unrivaled sovereignty, King Yudhisthira intends to worship you with the great fire sacrifice, the Rajasuya. Please bless his endeavor. Now he's saying that there's an ambition which isn't true, or the external may look like he wants sovereignty, but that's not what he wants. He wants something else. Purport. King Yudhisthira is described here as Parameshtya Kama, or, quote, desiring Parameshtya. The word Parameshtya means unrivaled supremacy, and also indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who stands at the very height of all existence, Parameshtya. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada translates Narada's message as follows. You have inquired about your cousins, the Pandavas, in the role of their well-wisher, and therefore I shall let you know about their intentions. Now please hear me. First of all, may I inform you that King Yudhisthira has all material opulences that are possible to achieve in the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka. He has no material opulence for which to aspire. Yet he wants to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice only, here it is, to get your association and to please you. He wants to worship you in order to achieve your causeless mercy, and I beg to request you to fulfill his desires. Paragraph. The word Parameshtya may also indicate the position of Lord Brahma. Since that's true, the term Parameshtya Kama is taken here by Srila Prabhupada to indicate not only that King Yudhisthira desired Lord Krishna's association, but and mercy, but also that of King Yudhisthira himself. but also that King Yudhisthira himself possessed Parameshya, all the opulences of Lord Brahma. Interesting. This is the commentary of Prabhupada's disciples, Hridayananda Maharaj primarily and Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu primarily, these two. It's not Prabhupada. So they know, preparing the BBT word for word in translation and purport, they knew what Prabhupada wrote. They knew, obviously, from the declensions of the Sanskrit term, either through their Sanskrit knowledge or acharyas or commentaries of previous acharyas, they knew there's multiple meanings of this term. With that in place, here they are, the BBT purports and verses saying, desiring unrivaled sovereignty. Which is one of the meanings. Unrivaled supremacy, also in the purport. Unrivaled sovereignty, unrivaled supremacy. It sounds like a material ambition. Sounds like. But unrivaled supremacy, unrivaled sovereignty is not unrivaled, means spiritual. And spiritual sovereignty then, or spiritual supremacy, means under Krishna, because he's unrivaled and he has a full sovereignty. Anyway, it's just a comment. They could have translated it otherwise, but it's unrivaled sovereignty, because that's what the Raja Suya, or the particular yajna that they wanted to do, is the king of all yajnas. And it's the king of all yajnas for a variety of reasons. One, big one, is it's meant to establish an emperor. And for the emperor to be established, there must be sovereignty over all other kings. That means, we discussed this a bit, but the king that wants this Rajasuya, he has to challenge or invite other kings, please accept my sovereignty. And that means you pay tribute, which means you pay an annual tax, and you become a landholder, king, and I become the emperor, king. And you're under me. And if that's okay, then pay some tax or pay some tribute. And if it's not okay, then there's battle. So otherwise there's not sovereignty, or unrivaled, it's not sovereignty. There can be coexisting kings that don't accept one another, but sovereignty means one accepts another. Anyway, it's Raja Yajna, Rajasuya Yajna, because it's establishing an emperor. And an emperor, we know from Vedic culture, there are different examples of this, but the king is said to be the representative of God. There's several examples. One nice example is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Sanatan and Rupa Goswami at Ramakeli, the Nawab sought tens of thousands of followers. And he was a little nervous, like friend or foe, what's up with this person? So he asked a minister, and then he got confirmation from Sanatan Goswami, who said, why are you asking me? You're the representative of God. No, it's a Muslim king, but it's the same principle. The king is accepted as representative of God. That, if he doesn't perform according to being a representative of God, then he's not really a fit king. But kings are supposed to be doing that. So, Sanatana Goswami said, just ask your mind. We had this discussion several times. What's the difference between an inspiration or realization or revelation that comes from the mind and one from supersoul? If you're a qualified king, it's supersoul. Just ask your mind. And you can say. That was a very clever way of avoiding the question. He didn't say that. He didn't say, who he is. He didn't not say who he is. So that just was very a clever escape from the question. But the king, the emperor, it's Raja Suya Yagya, because he's now supposed to be or establish himself not only sovereignty over other kings, but in a position that's like that of Krishna, the representative of God. And kings are supposed to be, qualified kings are supposed to be like that. And if they're not like that, they're not qualified kings. The whole system of monarchy becomes a show or a farce. And that's the problem. Prabhupada spoke a lot about this. He didn't like democracy. He didn't like unqualified kings. He liked qualified kings. It was very clear again and again and again. What are the symptoms of a qualified king? What does he do? What's his character? What's his duty? How does he execute his duty? Just, describing principles, so we get a picture of how far away we are from what the Vedic model is. Although today largely monarchy is abolished. Largely is abolished because there was abuse, unqualified persons, and also very ambitious other persons who wanted their control. Anyway, monarchy is a thing of the past, but the principle of monarchy is very important. And during Maharaj Yudhishthira's time, he was capable. So he was not just desiring parameshcha, sovereignty over many other kings, but he was parameshcha. He had the opulences of Lord Brahma. Well, imagine that. Not just the opulences of heaven, keep going up and up and up and up and up. How qualified was Maharaj Yudhishthira? And what was the foundation for those qualifications? His unique quality of devotion to Krishna. And therefore he wants Krishna's presence because he wants to honor, specifically we'll hear later, he wants to honor that the Rajasuya Yagya is done to propitiate devas. So they bless the emperor after he's conquered all other kings, to bless the emperor with all needed power to rule. It's the invocation to devas. So the devas are propitiated or worshipped. There's like some nice discussion about this. That why is Maharaj Yudhishthira worshipping devas? Because he's a Krishna Bhakt and he knows the philosophy. He wants two things. It says, Jiva Goswami writes, he wants to worship Krishna through the medium of the devas. It's not separate, wanting something from them. It's recognizing their ability to give something, that is to empower Maharaj Yudhishthira, the performer of the yajna, with the requisite strength and capacities and everything to be the qualified Parameshya, qualified ruler, sovereign of the world. So the devas supply it, but behind the devas are the Supreme. So he's worshiping the Supreme while respecting, at the same time, respecting and worshiping the representatives of the Supreme with the understanding, the transcendental understanding, they're representing him. So it's something like, respecting a Vaishnav. By respecting a Vaishnav, it's respecting Krishna, because that's what that makes the Vaishnav special or respectable. The opposite is one who offends a Vaishnav is offending Krishna, because they're representing Krishna. So the offense goes to Krishna. Although one may not be thinking like that, that's what's going on. So, Rajasuya, Parameshcha, Kama. Text 42. O Lord, exalt the demigods and glorious kings, eager to see you, will all come to that best of sacrifices. Purport. The Acharyas explained that Narada here means to say that since all the great personalities will come especially to see Lord Krishna, he should also come to that sacrifice. 43. O Lord, even outcasts are purified by hearing and chanting your glories and meditating upon you, the absolute truth. What then to speak of those who see and touch you? Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami interprets the word Brahma Mayasya to mean Brahma Gana Murtehe, of the concentrated form of the absolute truth. Text 44. My dear Lord, Narada continues, you are the symbol of everything auspicious. Your transcendental name and fame is spread like a canopy all over the universe, including the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The transcendental water that washes your lotus feet is known in the higher planetary systems as Mandakini River, in the lower planetary systems as the Bhogavati, and in this earthly planetary system as the Ganges. This sacred transcendental water flows throughout the entire universe, purifying wherever it goes. Purport. This translation is based on Srila Prabhupada's Krishna. Sridhar Swami mentions that the word Digvitanam indicates that Lord Krishna's transcendental glories spread throughout the entire universe like a cooling canopy over the universal directions. In other words, the whole world can find shelter under the cooling shade of the Lord's lotus feet. Thus, the Lord is Bhuvana Mangala, or the symbol of everything auspicious for this world. So that's the end of the words spoken by Narada. He may have said other things, but that's all that's reported here. Now, Shukadeva Goswami is narrating. Speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami says, when his supporters, the Yadavas, objected to this proposal out of eagerness to defeat Jarasandha, Lord Keshava turned to his servant Uddhava and, smiling, addressed him with fine words. Now, there's only two more short verses after this, and that's the end of the chapter. Now, the statement is, the Yadavas, they objected to what Narada had to say. Now, why would they do that? They had a fighting spirit. And they knew that the request of the ministers, the request of the messenger of the king was come and kill Jarasandha and release us from prison. And they're enthusiastic to do it, but it's actually, for the Rajasuya to happen, that has to happen anyways. Because Jarasandha, we mentioned, Jarasandha was on the same course as Yudhishthira. The course of Yudhishthira was sovereignty over the world. Jarasandha had the same plan, sovereignty over the world. And he had a big army, and he was a very powerful fighter, as we'll see as we go along. Whoops, I don't know if we'll get that far. He's very powerful. It took 28 days for Bhima fighting him to realize he couldn't defeat him. Is that right? Yes, that's right. So very powerful. But his plan was conquest. He was on track for becoming the emperor. And one of his reasons, it wasn't just anti-Yudhishthira. Ambitious people don't mind having adversaries. It was his enmity toward Krishna specifically. Yudhishthira was such a devotee of Krishna, he had enmity toward Krishna. Jarasandha. So the Yadavas, they knew that. And they were very enthusiastic to do battle with Jarasandha. But Krishna had a different plan. One of those different plans, it's like a sneak preview of what's coming up. But Krishna knew that for Yudhishthira to do the Rajasuya Yagya, he would need enormous wealth. And if there was a big battle between the Yadavas and Jarasandha and his army, a lot of that wealth would be lost. So he had another plan, but he's going to have Uddhava speak the plan. His other plan is singly, outside of the capital city of Jarasandha, there'll be a battle, and Jarasandha will be killed. Krishna will then install the son of Jarasandha immediately as the next king, and then the next king will offer tribute, which is all this enormous wealth. He's like a chess game with 6 steps ahead. So what? No, he's favoring the Yadavas. Obviously, he's staying in Dwarka to be with the Yadavas, and he knows their fighting spirit. So they object to what Narada has just said. They want to, anyway. So Krishna is now going to give loving affection and service to his dear cousin and dear friend and companion, Uddhava. Uddhava is a very special person. Purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, quoting Krishna book, just before the great sage Narada arrived in the Sudharma assembly house of Dwarka, Lord Krishna and his ministers and secretaries had been considering how to attack the kingdom of Jarasandha. That's why the Vrishnis, the Yadavas were all fired up, because they're discussing it. They want to get into it with him. Because they were seriously considering the subject, Narada's proposal that Krishna go to Hastinapur for Maharaj Yudhishthira's great Rajasuya sacrifice did not much appeal to them. Lord Krishna could understand the intentions of his associates because he is the ruler of even Lord Brahma. Therefore, in order to pacify them, he smilingly spoke to Uddhava. Now, Prabhupada's giving us not all details, but the inside picture. We're getting an opportunity through the Bhagavatam and through our acharyas, etc., to get understanding of Krishna's mind. Pretty amazing. Because who can understand Krishna's mind? But intimate associates of the Lord can understand. Like it's said, when a devotee is serving their master and they understand the mind of their master and they anticipate the mood and the desires and the need of their master, that's a very intimate servant. There's a very nice example of this we discussed in Chicago on the personalities from Ramayana. Shivananda Sen had 3 sons. One of those 3 sons became Kavi Karnapur. And another son was Gopal, and a third son was Chaitanya. Chaitanya, a Brahmana, came to spend time with his father while in Puri. While in Puri, during the 4 months of the rainy season, different devotees would offer meals. They'd invite Mahaprabhu to their home, Brahmanas, to come have their lunch, for him to have lunch with them. So on the occasion that he accepted lunch with Shivananda Sen's home, he broke the budget. He purchased the finest of Jagannath Prasad and was preparing to offer Jagannath Prasad. And Mahaprabhu liked it so much he overate. It's a pastime. And so he was in disturbed condition because he overate. Chaitanya Das was the next in line following his father. So when he invited Mahaprabhu for lunch, Mahaprabhu accepted the invitation, but he prepared, there's a list of items that he prepared that specifically when one has an upset stomach due to overeating. And Mahaprabhu commented, he knows my mind. He's such an intimate servant that he understands my mind. And then Prabhupada's comment is, that's a very qualified servant that understands because of close association. They understand the mind of their master. So Uddhava's like that. I mean, Narada's like that too. Narada understood what Krishna wants, because they were already, here we're hearing they were already discussing it. But what Krishna wants is to destroy Jarasandha. Therefore, this invitation to come to Indraprastha and conduct the Rajasuya Yagya, or not conduct, preside over it, fits the inner desire, the unspoken desire of my master. Final sentence of that purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that the Lord smiled because he was about to demonstrate Uddhava's brilliant ability to give counsel in difficult situations. Text 46. The personality of Godhead said, you are indeed our best eye and closest friend, Uddhava, for you know perfectly the relative value of various kinds of counsel. Therefore, please tell us what should be done in this situation. We trust your judgment, and we shall do as you say. Like even before he speaks, it's like he's submitting to Uddhava, whatever you say. Whew. I mean, just to say that to anybody about anything is special. What to speak of the Supreme Lord saying that to Uddhava? That's super special. Final verse of this chapter 70. Shukadev Goswami continued, thus requested by his master, who, though omniscient, acted as if perplexed, Uddhava took this order upon his head and replied as follows. So we'll have one more morning. We'll continue tomorrow with chapter 71. See if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. It's all the purpose today. It was so interestingly. I was listening to and eagerly waiting for the chapter, the next chapter, like how Krishna is planning all that Jarasandha fight. But my question, I was just meditating on the point that Krishna's unspoken desire, like how to kill Jarasandha, what you are mentioning, taking him outskirts, and sometimes Krishna does it in a tricky way. Even in Mahabharata also, in Kurukshetra also, that war, how he plans helps Pandavas to get the bow from Bhishma Dev. So this type of that planning tricky way, which is by Lord Krishna, how to understand that type of dealings in some situations.
Easy. Krishna is the source of everything. Is Krishna the source of everything? So he enjoys. There are some people that are manipulative and tricky. Where does that propensity come from? Now, whatever comes from Krishna in this realm is distorted and perverted, and it's not pure. But when Krishna does, he's enjoying. It's a pastime. I mean, he Krishna could have doesn't have to send Narada as a messenger. He could just finished Jarasandha without even moving a pinky. But it's a pastime because he's giving service to others, etc., 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 etc. He's enjoying. He's enjoying. Rasovai Saha. And when he does things like this, it's relishing happiness, spiritual happiness. So how does one derive spiritual happiness? By being tricky? Again, he could just manifest his omnipotence and Jarasandha is finished. It takes all the wealth of the Jarasandha's kingdom and it's a pastime.
Thank you, Maharaj. The follow-up question I have, so this is, as you mentioned, it's Lord Krishna's way of doing for his pleasure. But for us to take decision, or if those type of situations comes, so what is our way of dealing things?
Depends. Depends on the circumstance, depends on one's intelligence, depends on one's capacity. The driving force behind all of what I just said is Krishna should be pleased. That's we're not Prabhupada, but Prabhupada was confronted with different situations, and why he did what he did was like that. So we don't have that capacity, but the principle doesn't change. And also we have our nature. And so, for example, one of the principles of goodness is being straightforward in ordinary dealings. Now, being straightforward in ordinary dealings means no trickiness, no cunningness, no duplicity. On the other hand, for someone who's an absolute transcendentalist, then when they do such things that look like trickery, it's the satisfaction of Krishna, because the same thing could be accomplished by having Krishna protect them or empower them or whatever when they're just being in the worldly sense of straightforward. So the answer to your question is it depends. In some cases, like, we can go to Prabhupada's pastimes, but like Vidura, so bluntly, in the assembly, he spoke against Duryodhana, so bluntly, and said that all these problems are due to him. Naturally, you step on a snake and he's going to hiss. So that's what Duryodhana did. So that's the straightforwardness example. But there was a purpose in his doing that also. He recognized this is a hopeless situation. I've tried serving, and so on and so on and so on. So what are we to do? Depends on our Krishna consciousness and our relationship with Krishna and our nature. So there's other principles that should not change, or we try to bring into better and better focus according to our intelligence and our personality and our nature. But Krishna is to be pleased. The purpose of Krishna is to be fulfilled. That's the servant.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anything online? No. Okay. We'll end there. Thank you very much. Prabhupada Ki Jai.